Welcome back, Embers, or if you're new here, welcome to the Campfire Crew. My name is Stella. My pronouns are they, them, and today is my first update. It has been 2 months, but it is still my first update for Pan Those 32 eyeshadows. Now, first order of business, if you're seeing this, you'll see by the title that it is no longer Pan Those 32 eyeshadows. It's now Pan Those 62 eyeshadows. So what happened was my birthday happened and my dear lovely friend Persephone asked if I wanted them to send some declutters my way. And I said, yes, I would love to. And they also said, hey, I'm gonna send you this palette if that's okay with you. Would you like it? And I said, yes, I do. And that palette is the Nomad Royal Europe palette. Now this palette I only accepted because it was on my list, my wish list, because any palette I want to buy or item of clothing that's not thrifted, like anything new, stuff like that, I put on a wish list for myself, and if I still want it when I am ready to buy something new, then I can decide what on my wish list I still want. I can take things off and put things on. Now this was not on my wish list when Persephone messaged me, but they got themselves this palette and then also got me this palette. They were the last two in stock. Nomad is no longer doing this palette, but this was on my wish list for years. I'm not sure if I showed you the inside, but let me show you the inside. It's so beautiful. I haven't used this a ton yet, but I have used this shimmer on the lids. I've used some others, but I use them at nighttime, and I really want to get a play around with this during the day. Yeah, it's beautiful. It was on my wish list for a really long time. I think this purple is stunning, not like any of the other purples. We have some lovely pinks and all of these. It's just really beautiful. And because it was on my wish list for so long, when they asked because it was on deep discount, they were like, do you want me to send this to you? And I was like, yeah, even though I knew full well that I'd have to pan way more eyeshadows because of it, but I'm so happy to have it. I can't wait to play with it more. It's not going to roll in this month because it's still so new. So I might take a couple of months before I roll this, like any shade can roll in from this. But yeah, I brought in new eyeshadows, which means the rule is I have to pan twice as many eyeshadows as what is brought into my collection. So we're adding, it's a 15 pan palette, so we're adding 30 new eyeshadows, and then we have the palette I'm wearing today actually. Harvest of Souls was the 32 because it's a 16 palette, times 2 is 32. So we need to pan 32 shades for this one, and then 30 shades for this one. So 62 eyeshadows in total we have to pan before I'm allowed to buy anything else. And I have some other things I want, so hopefully we can get cracking. Anyway, let's now talk about the shadows. So I have 4 shades. Yes, I have 4 shades rolled into this project. I'm just looking beside me. I realized I can pull this out and just tell you guys about them. Yes, okay. I have 4 shades rolled into this project. Let's start with the least exciting to most exciting. So let's start maybe with, I'm gonna cut all of this out. Okay, so we have 2 shades that both have the same amount of uses. So let's talk about the first thing on my stack, which is the Def Leppard palette by Rock and Roll Beauty. I don't know if this brand is still around, but we are working on this shade here, Hallucinate. This is what it looked like last month, and I'll show a close-up picture of what it looks like this month. So this I have used in January 2 times, and then once in February, so 3 uses since my last update. I didn't wear a lot of makeup in January and February, a little more in February, but it's been chaotic. I am sure if you've watched any of my other videos, you might be sick of hearing me say that, but yeah, that's just the truth of it. I've used this in my inner corner, I'm pretty sure exclusively, and it has a little bit of a dip. Now, I've used it more than just those 3 times at this point. I'll just tell you, I have also used it 5 times in, actually it's the end of March, I'll tell you about all of the uses I have. So I use this 2 times in January, 1 time in February, and 5 times in March, for a total of 8 uses since rolling it into this project. Now, it doesn't have a huge dip, even though I am using an inner corner, like a tiny, tiny little brush on this. And I know how big, because of these, how deep the pan is. However, like I said in my intro, this is a great shade pretty much all year round. I think I can find things to use this for. So I'm not planning on rolling it out, even though it doesn't have that much of a dip on it. It pretty much has no dip at all, I would say. It's a very tightly pressed shade because probably the glitter particles are so fine. It's not like, we'll talk about it in my Citrus Punch palette. That has a more scattered glitter. This is very just like shimmer, finely milled. So it's quite tightly packed in there, and I don't need a lot for my inner corner. And sometimes I've been mixing it with a green shade actually in a different palette that I'm gonna bring out, so maybe I'll talk about that. But it does, you can tell where I've been dipping my brush in, but not much. There's a little dip, but it's not huge. And I don't think this is the kind of shade, I think I tried using this once all over, or like in the center of my lid, and I just didn't like the way it looked. It's kind of it's a really, really beautiful inner corner shade, but for the lid, I find it a little chalky, perhaps. So I am gonna keep using it as an inner corner, and we'll see how far I can get. I might roll this out eventually, because with this many uses, it really doesn't seem like much has been done to it at all. But I am gonna keep it in for at least another month, probably a couple more months with that. And then we have, ooh, this is less exciting actually, if we're including March, which I guess we are, because March is over already. Time is passing too quickly. We have my Simply Posh Citrus Punch palette. I just spoiled it, there's not a pan in this. And we have the shade Tangerine, which is this shade right here. Should I be swatching these? Yes, I should. Okay. Hallucinate. That's what this looks like. Don't know if you can see that super well, but it shows up really well on the inner corner. It's really beautiful. Glad to have it in still, to be honest. And then we have the shade Tangerine, which is this one here. If you look at it, like this is what it looked like last time. If you look at, I haven't done a project for a while, you can tell. If you look at it flat, it doesn't have as big of a dip as Tropical, but it does have more of a dip than any of the other shades. So Tropical has the biggest dip, then this. The particle size is quite big. It's not huge, but it is quite big. It's not actually that loosely pressed though, so I imagine this will take a while, but it's a really pretty shade. I really love it. It's this yellow base with a pink shift. It can be used on yellow looks. It can also be used on orange looks. It can look more orange if it's surrounded by other oranges. So it can be used obviously with pink looks. It's really pretty. It's not my favorite. Tropical, I think, is my favorite shade in this palette, at least for the shimmers. But it's one of my favorite shades. Now let me tell you how much I've used it. So I've used Tangerine twice in January, once in February, and 2 times in March, for a total of 5 uses so far. I can't believe I'm doing a 3-month update on this. To be fair, January's uses I don't think even counted for this project because I started it in February, but I just figure I should let you know what they are anyways. So obviously this doesn't have a dip. I don't think it's going to get a dip for a while. A lot of my eyeshadows, I said this in the introduction, are new. So they're going to take a while to hit pan on. but that's okay. I still am really happy to have this in, especially now that we're starting to go into spring. I think both of these shades are going to be really pretty for spring. And this is what it looks like. So on my finger, you can see more of the pink shift. Let me maybe do this and see if it, I don't know how that looks on camera, but that's the shift. Next, we have the Sephora Wishing You palette. Now, this is what it looked like last month. I need to get into the habit of using this. And this is what it looks like this month. This is the shade we're working on. It doesn't have a, oh, this is supposed to go the other, anyway. Apparently this is the way you hold it, but I always hold it like this, so that's the way we're holding it. It doesn't have a shade name, so I just call it Dark Red Shimmer, even though it's kind of purpley, kind of pinky. It depends what year. Obviously, this doesn't have pan. I used it once in January and twice in February for 3 uses so far this year. However, because of the shade, which I will swatch on my other hand, I am gonna roll it out. My plan is anything I roll out without a pan, I want to bring back at some point. Like, I eventually want to hit pan on all of the things that are in, that get rolled into this project. I'm just going to bring this back once we get to maybe October. I think October would be a good time for this. It's a really beautiful shade, actually. I really enjoyed it in February the couple times that I used it. I made some really beautiful looks for Valentine's Day with it. It's like dark, it's beautiful. I just don't think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of it at this time of the year, and I'd rather put something in this project that I'm going to be excited to use, especially considering how little makeup I've been wearing this year. So we've got this, which is rolling out, not because I have pan or that many uses, to be honest, but just because it doesn't suit the time of year, but I will roll it back in. And honestly, this shade doesn't really, you can't really see much of a dip if you look at it on its own. However, when I look at the other pans of eyeshadow, it definitely has more of a dip. The pan is about the size of my finger, so it's not like a very precise dip, because I do always use, most shimmers I use with my finger unless I'm putting them in the inner corner, or I just, like, sometimes I'll pack them on top, more on the inner side of my lid, where like my finger just gets to all over the place. But this usually goes on the outer corner. I usually use it with my finger. So the dip is kind of most of the palette, but you can, compared to the other shades, like if you look at it by itself, you're like, that hasn't been touched. But when you see it next to the fuller shades, I can tell that there's a little bit of something going on. So again, these are incredibly deep. I think this, I'm gonna have to roll it in and out a lot to hit pan on it. But for now, it's, you know, rolling out. We do have one exciting thing for you guys, and that is my Divina palette. Now, this is the oldest palette in my entire collection. This was the first eyeshadow palette I ever got in 2020 during the pandemic when I was inside the house. I was already watching makeup videos, but I decided to actually get my hands on some makeup. And what I wanted to do with this palette is I wanted to have at least one shade rolled in every month, and every month I would switch shades whether or not I panned it. So I had one shade in for February, and then I had one shade in for March. And now, since we are at the beginning of April, behind as always, I have used both of those shades each for a month. So the shade I had rolled in for February is called Nemesis. This is what it looked like before. And in January, I used it once. And in February, well, it was the focus shade, I used it 3 times. And in those 3 uses, we got a tiny little pan. And this is what it looks like now with our tiny little pan off on the side. It's very cute. I love it very much. I'm very excited about it. I, again, did some really cute Valentine's Day looks with this, and I found it so versatile. I already knew I loved the shade, but I love it even more now. I used it in a Valentine's Day look that was purple, and it leaned very purple, and then I used it in a very red kind of like blood red look for Valentine's Day. And this also looked so red. Like, I did them one day after the next, and I couldn't believe how different this shade looked depending on the colors around it. Obviously, all colors are like that, but I was really pleased to see how purple it leaned versus how red it leans, because of course it's this like wine purple color, so there is some red in that shade. But yeah, I love it even more than I did before, and I already loved it a lot. It's one of my favorite shades in this palette. It's definitely my favorite matte in this palette, though closely followed behind by the next shade I used. So I'm really excited to have a pan in this. And in total, I have used it, like not just this year, but in total to get that pan, I used it 42 times. These are very deep, and the mattes especially are deep. Now the next shade I used, I thought it was Parthenos, but Parthenos already had a pan, is Patina. Now, as you can see, I don't have a pan in this, but I will be rolling in a new shade from this palette for this month. Not these two, they're not a part of this palette technically, one of these. This is a very deep palette, so we'll see what I choose to roll in. I think looking at it, I know what I'm gonna pull in. Okay, so Anyway, so Patina I ended up using 3 times in March, which isn't a ton, but I did definitely get some use on it for March, for St. Patrick's Day. Did a lot of green looks. This didn't suit every green look, but it was nice to use. I was hoping to get a pan, but I'm not surprised that I didn't, to be honest. It definitely didn't have as big of a dip as this, but I, got very hopeful when I had this. This also has a little bit of hard pan, I think. So it's not the best. Wait, let me swatch these out for you. So we have this shade, which I used with this one, obviously. And then we have the green Patina here. So those are the shades I've worked on and rolled out. Now from this palette, I'm thinking maybe one of these reds or this gold. I think I was gonna say the gold for next month, but I think I want to save that for deeper in the summer. I think the next closest shade I have out of those 2 shades to hit pan on is probably this one, Blazed. So I'm gonna use this one. It has a pretty good dip on it, I'd say. I wouldn't be surprised if I panned it, but it's not the most sparse. It's a very, wrong hand. It's a very smooth shimmer, but it is a very true red shimmer, which I know a lot of people say they can never find. Blazed from Divina is stunning. It's a little bit dark. I know a lot of people don't love that dark look, but it's so beautiful. I've also mixed in this gold shade with it to make a much lighter, more orange shade. It's just really beautiful. There's quite a decent dip. So like I said, if I use it a couple of times, maybe like 5 times, I could hit pan on this. Either way, I will roll this back in at some point this year, I'm sure, because I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more shades left in this palette. So I will be rolling these in multiple times, each shade, but I do want to switch every month, so I think this will be good. And then once summer hits, like the start of summer, I might use this one for like Deep Time Nights, and then this one for the golds, and then red at some point. And then once we get into the winter again, I'll roll in this. But for now, we're going to use this shade. I think this year we can have a pan on it. If not this month, I might roll it in again, maybe in December actually, because it'd be a cute red. But we'll try and hit pan on it, because I actually think I can do that. Now, in the intro, I said, I'm just trying to get all these shadows off, but look at this red, it's incredible. I would be rolling things however I saw fit, and I was rolling randomly from a list of eyeshadows that I had the goal of hitting pan on. However, I don't know where that book is right now, because part of the messiness of this month, or the last couple of months for us, has been cleaning a bunch, getting our apartment sprayed in December and then again in January, and it was a whole thing. So we've moved a lot of our stuff around multiple times. I thought I found the notebook, but it wasn't the right one. It was my gaming notebook. I have a lot of notebooks, and yes, I do have to take notes on my gaming stuff. I'm very dedicated to the farming sims. Thank you very much. I've been playing a lot of Paleo Pines again. Oh, so fun. Anyway, I don't know where that notebook is, so I did not roll in a shade this time. So I'm gonna hand select something, and maybe I'll hand select it based off of this. I don't really want to use this palette. I want something kind of spring or summery. I have that, like, those yellows, so maybe a matte yellow would be nice for the next couple of months going into the summer. I'm not going to roll anything from here. I'm not going to roll anything from there because it's more of a deep tone. That has everything. Maybe I could roll in Monterey Jack. It's a yellow and it's not that deep. It's very powdery. But then again, it's like, is this the one I really want to focus on? But at the same time, it's like, it is the closest to pan. But so part of me is like, I could get pan on this in like 2 or 3 months. Whereas I don't think I could on my Citrus Punch palette. But then again, like, wouldn't I rather use my Citrus Punch palette than this random palette? But on the other hand, if I pan this, I'm one step closer to just getting rid of this packaging, which I would love to do. And I do love these shades. You know what? I'm going to do it. We're going to roll in Monterey Jack, this yellow. I'm not even really going over that pan mark because it's so indented in there. It feels like I clawed it at some point, but this is what it looks like. It's this bright yellow, and it'll go well with these two shades, not so much this one, but that's okay. It doesn't have to go well with everything, but it will help me get these older shades that I have been working on now for a few months. It will help me roll them out. So I think that's a good idea. And it would be nice to have pan on this so I can work on panning everything in here, finishing it up. They're very powdery. I think I can keep this in and actually hit pan on this. I have hope for this. So that is my color story right now. We have Hallucinate. We have I already forgot. We have Hallucinate, we have Tangerine, we have Blazed, and we have Monterey Jack. So mostly yellows and one bright shimmery red, which actually I could use with the yellows, do like a fire look, which would be fun. So now we have all the same palettes, but we have one new one in here, a new shade to work on with this. Hopefully I will be, I say this with every update, I hope I will be up to date soon. But if not, thank you for your patience. I appreciate everyone who's still here with me for the chaos. I'm sure lots of you understand the chaos because the older you get, the more chaotic things go. But thank you for being here, and I will see you later. Hopefully the lighting hasn't gone absolutely, well, just gone. I guess we'll find out, and I'll have to edit the color if I need to. Oh, before I go, this is the look. Go on Instagram and follow Dub's Beauty Diary. Also follow her here on YouTube. This is a collab look, which will be going up on Monday, which definitely is going to be before I edit and post this video because I still have a video to edit. Anyway, I will see you guys later. Hope you like the look. Go follow Dub, DW, follow and subscribe to me. Like this video if you liked the video, all that stuff. Maybe I could get to 200 subscribers by the end of the year. I doubt it, but I'd only need like 19 more people. Yeah. So if you're not subscribed, do that. I'll see you guys later. Bye.